Testing, testing. Check, test 1, 2, 3. Is it audible now? Because there's a dial there. Test, test. There's a dial. If you turn it to the full extent, we should be able to hear that. Is it there? Is this clear? Check, test 1, 2, 3. Is it on?
Hello?
Can you bring
Infinitum 2024. As deduced from the fixture, the teams for today are the requesting party T13, the responding party T22, and the mediator for today's round is Mr. John James Samuel. The expert assessors for today's round are Mr. E.O. Mendes, Ms. Denise Shaw, Ms. Josephine Dace, Ms. Helen Mizinski, and Dr. M.I.K. Prasad. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome, sir. Please note that post the CI session, that is during the main session, the coaches aren't allowed to communicate with the teams. Also note that the use of electronic devices is strictly prohibited. Only the board can be used by the mediator. The round shall be of 60 minutes, which will be followed by a 15-minute scoring session, and I will be available during all times throughout the session. The timekeeper shall begin recording the time as soon as the mediator begins with their opening statement. I wish you all good luck. Mediator, you may now begin.
welcome to this mediation session. I'm John James Samuel, your mediator. Please introduce yourselves. We can go around.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chief Minister Susana Majid, and I'm the Chief Minister, of course, of the Good Values Democratic Party. I know that outside of this room, we are all Sir Chief Minister, appreciate in the spirit of us seeing each other the words before addressing this.
Good afternoon. My name is Infinitum, and I'm the General Counsel representing my client today. And I'm really hoping to have a great session.
It's really nice to meet you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm here with my practical advisor today. My name is Madan, and Sir Chief Minister, I've known you for quite a while now, and it's weird for me to call you by your name, so if it's okay, I've advised my counsel to call you Sir G or Chief Minister G if that's possible. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Nice to meet all of you. Thank you for the webinar session. My name is Sherry. I'm his political advisor.
Before we begin, I just want to confirm that both parties have the authority to be here, come to an agreement and sign.
Yes, thank you.
As I'm sure your counsels have already informed you about the mediation process, I don't think I need to go in too deeply. I'd just like to reiterate that as your mediator, I'm here merely to facilitate this session. I'm not here to judge. It is a client-centric process, and I hope it is the clients who are sitting closer to me. Great. Because it's going to be your ideas, and your counsels are here to ensure that it's done within the legal framework and to help you arrive at that. You are here of your own free will, voluntarily, and as your mediator, I'm here in a purely neutral capacity. I have no personal vested interest in this matter, and everything that is discussed here is going to be confidential. The process, whatever is discussed here, and confidentiality also has another level. If at any point either party wishes to speak with me privately and share some concerns or have any questions, whatever is discussed with that party will not be divulged to the other party without your express consent. And if I have a caucus with one side, I will offer that chance to the other side as well. We're of course dealing with senior leaders here, so I don't think I need to say this, that let's be civil at all times and make sure this is a productive session. Just to give you a brief about the process, I'll request each side to make a very brief opening statement as to what brings you here and what is your interest. You know, what is it that we can help you achieve. Once we do that, we'll have a brief time of information gathering. If you have any queries that you'd like to ask the other side, that will be your opportunity. We can draw up an agenda, and then you can decide in what order we would like to begin with. If you have any questions or any concerns, please let me know now or even later. Okay. So we usually begin with the requesting party, and then I will, following that, give the responding party the opportunity to discuss what they like on the agenda. That's all right. Right, without further ado, let's begin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mediator. Just to remind me again, who would you like to be addressed during this session?
Call me John.
Thanks, John. Thank you, John, for starting us off. And before I go any further, I think today we're opening minds here. So, like that, sometimes I have interference, and sometimes you might want me to repeat myself if I'm not audible. Please feel free to interrupt me if that request. And before I say anything, I just want to say it's nice to see you again, Mr. G. You're okay. It's nice to meet you as well, your political advisor. And I just want to start with perhaps letting my political advisor bring us through what exactly has happened as John mentioned. And with that context, I can perhaps make a few words more on how we can go forward.
So before I begin, I'd like to thank all of you, Mr. Minister, as well as the Minister, for meeting us at the table today, as well as John for guiding us through this session. Now, I think the issues that we need to discuss today are of paramount importance because it concerns our party, our people, and our country. And so to this end, we will really seek your help in guiding us through this. So for your benefit, John, a lot has happened over the past 14 weeks. And let me just break down the numbers for you. In the cabinet of 300, our party got 110 members elected. the required mandate was 151. And so with the pledge of FPB, this allowed our party to get the difference and make the difference. And what we're facing now is a 55-55 split right down the middle. Now this, for all of us, Mr. Minister, as well as, has dire consequences, and if we're unable to come to an agreement today, there will be at least 55 members out of office, and this is not what either of us wants. We do not want this to happen. And I think, Anita, as a political advisor yourself, I'm sure you echo these same sentiments. And in my experience as a political advisor, I always turn to the wise words of Mahatma Gandhi. He said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." Well, this change starts here. It starts with us, for our party, our people, and our country. So in supporting this, I would like to talk about what my client is hoping to achieve at today's table. His interests are twofold, and briefly put, the two Ps. The first would be progress for our voter base, and the second P would be politically sustainable changes. So I would like to pass the time on to my client over here, and he can delve us into a bit more upon his feeling about what he hopes to achieve.
Thank you, Jack. That was very useful. And I'd like to add some color to that. If I may, John, can I start with a story? Have you watched the movie Batman vs Superman by any chance? Okay, then I'll tell the story. So there are two characters here. Superman is from alien planet. He's phenomenally powerful. He has the opinion of the common man. He's always favoring the common man. And he's the strongest character in this entire universe. And he's very respected as a superhero. And then there's Batman. And this Batman guy is an industrialist. He's a different kind of hero. He operates more of technology. He has no powers of his own. And immediately here, John, you see some parallels. I think what I'm trying to allude to is CMG, you remind me of Superman. And the conflict today reminds me of the storyline of Batman and Superman. What effectively happens is that there's competing priorities. Batman thinks something has an idea of justice, Superman has a different idea of justice, and they fight. And John, could I ask you to guess here, who won this fight?
I'm not here to make any judgments even about government.
So I'll give you the answer.
So
The
I'm
answer
going
is-
to ask you to give me the answer.
Sure, the answer is no one won this fight. Why? Because they actually found a way to reconcile their competing priorities. What happened in the movie is first, they found a way to change their competing priorities into compatible priorities. The two visions of justice could be reconciled, their strengths and weaknesses would come together, and together they were able to bring a new sense of justice together. And it's interesting as well that you're helped in this process by Wonder Woman, and we also have Wonder Woman here. The second important thing that happened in this movie, which parallels today's discussion especially, is that a key trigger and catalyst for them to come together was a common enemy. There was an emerging threat in that movie of this guy called Doomsday, terrible villain. Similarly, today we have an emerging threat of PDB. If we don't find a way to make our interests and priorities compatible, we both lose to PDB. And I don't want that. Ministry, I have a lot of respect for you. I really think you're Superman. And I want to find a way that we can bring our priorities together. To help with that, let me explain why this has happened. The reason why we have to escalate the matters, because we have a few requests and priorities. The first is, our voter base wants a greener huge network. And this is a large housing community, this is the young people. They want to see their areas become green. And that's a sizable part of our voter base and reason why I like it. The other thing is, with the younger population, also a sizable voter base, they want to increase employment, they want more opportunities. And with that, that also means we need more industry, we need more organization to increase that employment. The issue that we sort of face is that it felt like it was difficult to get these priorities across. Because right now, we're focusing too much on the tribal base. And I understand that completely, I know why it's important. And I'm not at all saying that we shouldn't do that. I do think that we should find a way to do all of this. We can meet these priorities and your priorities together. And that's my larger interest issue. to get the compatible priorities, the first thing I want to focus on is my larger interest of progress. We want to see progress for our voter base and our constituents. The second large interest is political sustainability. No matter what we do today, we both have a shared interest in making sure we don't lose power to PPE. If you can find a way to reconcile these interests, we'll keep political power and we can get progress together. And that's all I have to say. And I'd love your help here, John, to help me synthesize this and discuss this together.
I've left from there now. I'd like to hear from you what brings you here and what it is.
Of course, am I audible to everyone? Firstly, Madam, let me say, I have I'm quite excited by the look of our future leadership. Right? I may not be able to follow Superman and Batman, but I do know, right, that when my children are around and they tend to fall, I know that what makes them made up is Superman. So it means a lot to me when you pass those things on. Yes, we do have a common enemy, right? And I hear you when you say that we need to work together to combat them. We might have competing interests or objectives, but we can still bring them together to make sure people that Shemios established that are important, that they are interested. So, firstly, I'd like to thank you, John. Also, you mentioned confidentiality and what it is. And what we are talking about here is to deal with people's lives. It's to deal with the projection of our government, projection of our country. So I thank you for establishing that, and I know that when we follow that, it's going to make this conversation a lot easier. We can be honest, we can be, look at each other across the table and be frank. I really appreciate that. Now, to give you a little perspective, I also have a bit of a story back from when this nation was forming. It's not as interesting as Batman and Superman, but I think we can learn a few lessons. The PDP came into power, fell into this trap. The Free People's Voice that chased out the monarchy and came into power as we come into power to protect the people's interests. They vote us in, they give us a mandate. And as Chief Minister, it's my belief that I do whatever I can to give those people that mandate, because I know my political advisor will attest to that. If I don't give that mandate, I'm not coming back in. So in the history of this country, we've had a bit of a problem where people, for their own self-interest, corporate interests, tend to give their country up, tend to give their people up. And Madan, hearing you speak, and I know how fiercely you advocate for the urban development of this country. I know that, and I was called, I know that I haven't given you the time of day until today, but now I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to really understand where you're coming from. And I hope that we can collaborate towards something good. Before I move on, I would also like to tell you that I hear you when you say that we need to balance the interests of the tribal people and the urban development of our nation as well. Economically, that makes sense. We need to progress, but we also need to look after the people that brought us. To that, I want to say that yes, we are now on the same page. We are also looking at opportunities and looking at policies that can spearhead urban development while protecting the interests of the people that we very established. So, in that sense, something that's very important for me today, Mother, is I need someone trusted, an advisor of sorts in urban development. And perhaps, especially after hearing you speak, perhaps that person I can find here. With that, John, if you don't have any clarifications to make, I'd love to hear these comments. Please.
Thank you very much. Firstly, John, thank you for being here to facilitate today's session. And Shami, when we spoke about people, parties, and the country, it really resonated with me. And it shows us how important all of this is for you. So that is quite exciting for us to start. And again, Madan, thank you for being here. Now, Shami, I'm sure you know, being a political advisor, that we're not just dealing with money, we're not just dealing with a small business relationship, we're dealing with country, with people, with community, and we're dealing with the fate of Houston. So this, because of this, that I want to start by acknowledging my appreciation for the Free People's Voice for really pushing for this mediation. I think it was a brilliant idea. Aside from this, we can be of different parts of Houston, so there might be any cultural laggings, there might be misunderstandings. So if there is any confusion at all, please feel free to ask me and get my clarifications, and I'll be more than happy to explain this to you. And I, as the political advisor, I will also try to keep track of the process, but John, you are the expert. So if we go away, or if it gets political, if it gets positional, or if we start moving in circles, please do push us right back in track as well. Now, what my client potentially wants to get out of today's mediation is to ensure that the interests of the people of Houston is protected and the community is protected, and that there is finally stability in the government. And with that being said, I want to propose that Madam Gupte, because you have so many ideas regarding urban development, that we want to firstly talk about urban development, and secondly, the security of the government. Sean, does that sound all right?
Yeah, perhaps we could, if we can allow John to, because that's what both of us have said, and then we can build on that later on.
It's very useful that you've told me what brings you here and what it is that you all are seeking. Do you have any questions that you all have for each other very briefly? If not, then we can proceed with drawing up the agenda. So if there's anything you feel that you, some information you need from the other side, this is an opportunity, but you can always ask it at a later stage if it comes up as well. So since I gave the requesting party the chance to speak first, when it comes to drawing up the agenda, now it's your turn to begin and talk about what it is a priority for you. But I would just like to point out one of the positives is what I'm hearing from both parties is that you are looking out for the interests of the people. And I think it's a rare and commendable thing that you have people involved in politics here who are actually working for the betterment of their people. Right? So when you have that, I think you have substantial ground already covered. And although the road ahead may have some troubles, I think we will get there. So what would you feel, what's something that we need to discuss? Would you have, I think you, I mentioned security. Would that be one of your concerns?
Securing the government,
Yes,
especially,
security
yes.
of the government. I heard you speak of urban development, and I think people understand that from both sides. Is that an accurate assessment? Would you like to reframe that? Or what is it? Put up with? Anything else that you'd like to add on to that or reframe?
Yeah, John, I think I'll definitely like to see that report. And I've heard some very positive things from your opening statement, CMG. And I've heard things like protecting the mandate and balancing the priorities, which is something that we definitely bring on as well. And I think the key large thing that we are both looking for today is synergy. And what will mean a lot to me is if I saw the word synergy on the board. Because synergy means a lot of things. If you can do the thing of protecting the mandate, balance the priorities that we want to bring to the people, and find solutions in the longer term, I think we've achieved synergy. And then we have a successful discussion at the table today. What do you think about that, CMG?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. And from that core value that you're getting as
In fact, we've not yet got with the list and that the numbering of the priority. We can always have that decided between the parties. I'll just quickly put it up. One thing is the people, that's what I heard. One is urban development. whereas I think about political sustainability, security of the government, I think that sort of comes together, doesn't it? You think of a term that will sum it up.
Political security,
Yeah, I think
logic, both of them together.
would that
That works for me.
I think I heard some discussion about the future, what the future looks like. Is that something that you would like to discuss?
I feel that chime in as well, John, with me. Well, because security is the primary interest of future economics that we can establish. And I also want to add on to synergy that Madam mentioned, which perhaps box around the items and synergy is something that encompasses all.
Thank you.
In fact, I feel this is a priority for both the parties. So perhaps
Yes,
we
it's a
can
mutual
talk
interest.
about that. Again, I have not put any numbers because it's the two of you who decide what order you'd like to discuss this. And if we don't get to one, we can always get to that in the next session. Okay, so to begin with, would you like to discuss the synergy aspect?
What is most important?
I think synergy would definitely be an underlying concern in all our discussions. And I wanted to start with hearing you out, listening to you as well. Let's talk about this idea of the people, the mandate that you mentioned. I'd like to know more about that. Is it alright to start with that?
I think that's a brilliant question, Madan. Before my client can answer that question, I just have one suggestion for John. Because we're going to be talking about a lot in today's session, we're going to be reaching out to lots of people, we're going to talk about community. So perhaps I think it will be a good idea for us all to have in mind the stakeholders that we have in today's session. So perhaps, John, if you could write down in some circles the stakeholders that we will be considering in all of our discussions, I think it would be very helpful. for one
Can I
another.
add that up here, the stakeholder definition?
Can I list down some stakeholders?
Okay.
So not as an agenda point,
Okay.
but perhaps as just a side note of the
Sure.
stakeholders.
I think it's very important, Madam, because when we are taking these decisions, it's very easy to get wrapped up in our personal interests sometimes. But all these people depend on us. I think my advisor had some noted down some utility lines and so in mind, and also some as well. So we have that on the board. We can always see and make sure that it's
I've added the separation as you. If you could just tell me what is
Community.
The word plural and then communities. Communities.
The general public. Corporations.
Perhaps it's a small word, might it be helpful?
Yeah,
How about
shorten this in
Yeah,
executive?
no, how about you list it out in full? We'll take it down. And every time we discuss something, we'll bring up the stakeholders because I think these people are important. I mean, these stakeholders are some people I think about daily as well. They are our constituents as well, they're part of our voter base. Together, we need to find a way to make them more happy. And I'm more than happy to think about them. And can you give me your list and we'll take it down?
So aside from that, we also had the People's Democratic Party voice,
So that's the PDP.
PDD.
PDP.
PDD.
I'm going to have to apologize for the mess up here. Let's do it as we can. PDP.
PDB. And the Free People's Voice, the FP. Shamli, is there any other stakeholder that you might want to focusing on?
It comes under communities. Okay. All right.
And CMG, I think we also need to think about something that I guess our party doesn't really sell to the public as much. And in the interest of political sustainability, we also have to think of two key stakeholders that sometimes we neglect. That's the industrialists, and to balance them out, the trade unions as well. So these are two stakeholders that in some of the policies we've sort of alienated, and we do need to find a way to think about them as well. And I'm sure we'll discuss this later on as we go through our issues. So I think it's a good time now to come to the question of memory. I understand there's really more. And of course, you've been in this business, in this profession for a really, really long time. And you know the people better than anyone. Could you help me understand better how best to execute the memory? What exactly is the concern that needs to be met?
So, this is a situation where we came into power really with a mandate to protect the interests of tribal and the rural people of this country. And that makes sense because they are the majority of the country. Now, in this particular situation, that primarily came forward by the policies that we were getting forward. Right? There was a green belt that was to be destroyed, but we restored it. We ensured that that green belt was protected, and that the rural lines within that green belt were well. Then we also correctly mentioned the industrialists or the corporate giants, or we phrase it as the same program. We removed them as well on agriculture. At the time, we didn't believe that was the best interest. So those are the main considerations. And the political climate, Madan, right now, is in a situation where if we were to just go back on those policies, or if we were to bring in policies that go directly against that, while it may well be in the interest of people that you and I can discuss, they may not see. They don't see the government falls, we are not able in a good way. So I hope that gives you a bit of clarity in that sense. And yes.
Yeah, and that gives me a lot of clarity. And so it does sound like the key concern is what the people think and how our actions are reflected to the general public. And that's something I definitely understand. And one thing that's sort of off the top of my mind is there some scope of flexibility? Because if there's a way we can implement maybe urban policies, maybe green policies, that at the same time will appeal to this demographic, and at the same time still satisfy our mandate for the larger people, is there scope of flexibility there?
That is exactly what we're looking at. So what we are looking for are policies that balance both and that can be packaged to both parties. And this is easier said than done, and Binti can jump in and explain, and she has explained that business. It's a lot easier said than done. That is where actually I'm looking at you, Manoj, as someone we know fiercely advocates for urban, and I hear that you're on the same page in terms of we believe that we need to package them together. The policies, both parts of the community should go hand in hand. I want to get what your thoughts are in terms of how those can go hand in hand, and what that will actually look like in the real world.
That's a good question. And in response, I think, to best illustrate this, let me put some options on the table and some ideas. I think we should, it's difficult for us to, of course, formulate policies today, we're not a parliament. But we can think about the structure of the party. And the key word I'm looking at is appointments. At the moment, there's a lot of appointments at the front of tribal welfare. That is definitely important. And we want to see these appointments continue because we know that there will definitely be more interest. On our front, we think we can expand this a bit and have some appointments in favor of green, in favor of urbanization. And what that might look like is something maybe my political advisor can suggest.
Yeah, so as it stands, Japan is really looking for a more balanced representation in the cabinet. As for appointments, we do want the urban legislators to be represented more. So that's one thing. The second is that there are several urban leaders that are heading representing tribal wellness, and we feel that it would be more appropriate if they could focus on the urban side of things. And in this way, I think we'll be able to meet both of our interests in that both parties are represented and the
But as Madan pointed out, the optics are very important. We may make this in principle, if benefit was agree, having half and half, but we're looking for his joint policies, having half and half in terms of leadership makes sense. But what I'm thinking, and where I come from, if I hope you can add as well, is if we look to immediately start making half and half appointments, what message does that communicate to people in terms of whether the mandate explicitly asked from us is being fulfilled?
That's an important question. And in fact, I think it's something we should all think about together as well. Because it's not, and I'm glad that the answer wasn't a no, it was an answer of how do we make this better. And I'm so glad, John, that CMG is actually building and workshopping this option together. So I'm thinking here, if there's a way, as you're suggesting, that the optics also checks out, then it sounds like this would be ideal to consider. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is think about appointments that will also look good to the tribal voting list. And on this front, I think we have to brainstorm here, Shani. Do you have any ideas on the top of it?
Well, there could be an appointment such as the head of modernization. I think this would, it's not, urbanization, it's a more neutral term. And I think all stakeholders in communities would take kindly to this. What do you think?
Yes. So what I'm suggesting is, maybe in the long term, we can go for that 50-50. But in the short term, you're right, the optics don't look good. So let's do something else instead. Let's start with 1 or 2 appointments. We see how people react to that. And maybe we'll be surprised, maybe they'll like it. And we might actually win by a larger margin in the next elections. And if we do, then we can move towards more 50-50 in the longer term. So our first request is, could we perhaps appoint a green minister and an urbanization committee?
Mother, I'll actually agree one better. What we're looking at in terms of leadership, this is something that I want to be very sensitive for. It's in my interest, and as I mentioned at the beginning, it's in my lot of the party's interest as well, to start increasing the leader business. And like you said, we need to soften the people up to this idea. The idea that this will now be something that will be good for them. And what we were thinking, what we have discussed with all our advisors, and the Council has given it quite a bit of there is a bit of a split, as you know, in Parliament right now, in the cabinet. Almost a 50-50 split actually, in terms of in terms of was it less to the Greens, say in Europe. So what I'm suggesting is option that I'd like to put on the table, perhaps record yourself, keep track of all these options, is that we look at what my deputy minister and label that deputy minister as the minister in charge of it. What are your thoughts on the appointment like that? So therefore, we can justify it to the people because we said, look, I know you all are very upset as far as but you all voted us in. And right now, cabinet 50% actually does believe that the cabinet is important. And as the chief minister, I have to listen to my cabinet. So my proposition is to tell the people, there is justification here, or a point with them. Let's put the deputy minister, you people over there. And I will be working closely with him to make sure his policies are still in the interest of people at large. We can tell you guys this, we can do the usual shebang. But that's the option that I would like to put on the table. And I think in the long term, yes, we go for 50-50. We'll see that on the table. But in the short term, to be very precise and make sure the optics are clear, this is something that I think is important. We think we can maybe give a little bit more on the specificities.
Yes, of course. I think you summed up most of our offer. But before I come to specificities, Madan, what about this offer do you most interest?
What interests me is, of course, find a way to build on it. I think it's a good idea to appoint a minister of urban development. One thing I want to build on is the name urban development. I think urban development is we have just said, making out things clear. Even urban development can be a bit of a dangerous term. It could sound like urban is the opposite of tribal. And maybe we don't want that. Maybe if we use a more neutral term, something everyone understands, like progress. And instead of making it one minister, maybe we could also consider making a committee, a progress committee, so that it's a group of people working on it. And because one question I had off the top of my head, and I would like to hear the response to this, is the rationale of using your VMSCL, and I know you well as well, and to lead this, to be appointed as this minister. Because if, in the alternative, we look at it as a committee, he can still lead the committee, and he might have a team of younger and very enthusiastic young leaders wanting to help. So, could I just quickly understand how the VMSCL's name came up, and what's the rationale for
Looking at point of the last,
Oh, sorry. So the suggestion from you was to appoint your DPM or our DPM as the new urban development. And I think I said a lot. Maybe it's a good time. Is there a way to package this so that it's clear?
Yeah, so I think what we're really looking at first, if we can start with the long term, is in the long term, we would be principle to a 50-50 split. And right now, we're discussing how we're going to make that happen in the short term and building from there. So it seems like, from what you suggested, you would like your deputy minister to be in charge. And I think Pradan is very enthusiastic. He said that instead of just one person, a progress committee could be formed instead. Now, what he's really asking now is more details on our DPM, why he was suggested for the role, and if there were any other considerations that you would like us to know.
If I can take this one up. The DPM that we considered for the role was purely based on the projects and the development and the public's overall view on them. However, there have been other considerations for this role as well, which I think my client was very excited in. If it is of interest to Magan, perhaps how much you feel about being in this role?
Oh, this is a surprise to me. Well, I do think that to start with, I've never considered that. So and I'm very honored by the offer, and it's something that I definitely think about. And perhaps this is something that we can talk about on a more consistent basis in the next few weeks. I would like to think about that. I think the greater priority here is as you suggested, and we sort of seem to be keen on as well, is making a step in the right direction. Whether or not it's me, we can save that for a later date. I would suggest that we should make it a committee, a team of people, led by one person, which we can discuss on. And on top of that, the name of the committee we propose is the Progress Committee, Progress Consultation Committee. To aid in their efforts and to be objective about it, I think we should also suggest and make a huge press release that their appointment will start on a particular timeline, there are certain objectives, and they will also get independent consultation and have a budget. That would be really nice for us. And it would definitely meet our interest of showing progress. And we also think it will be politically sustainable because we can gauge the reactions of the people and then make changes accordingly after the next election. And to me, this is quite a whole picture now. And I'd like to perhaps put it back since we're both working on this option together. CMG, what do you think about this?
Actually, what I think about Madan is we very delicately, it has been a surprise on you, very delicately put that proposition. Because for me, it's very important that the person who comes in as, I think let's establish on the terminology. I hear your justification, and I know that development has that connotation amongst our people. So progress is a good thing, right? So for my deputy minister in charge of progress, I needed someone that I know I can trust, that has allegiances in the right And when you answer, you may be surprised, you spring that on you, and you answer saying, I never considered that. That's a good sign. I'm hearing also concerns in terms of the timeline. I think the committee is something that is very much in our interest, right? It makes sure that the interest of the people as well as the cabinet is all in line. It can be headed by this Minister of Progress. That is also something that will get. The timeline, I think that's something maybe you can perhaps set up.
I think the committee is something that, like my friend mentioned, is something we're interested in. So perhaps once we settle on the person who is going to be the Deputy Chief Minister and we have that discussion, we can both get together and decide the committee and we can move forward from there if that sounds like a positive thought point.
And if I can add, I hear what you're saying, Madan, in terms of let's discuss who heads this later. But the big reason I came to this meeting is because I wanted to see whether this can happen between us. Right? And as I said, a big part of that conversation is I need to know that this person is someone I can trust and that this person has his allegiances in the right place. I hear you when you say that you want that conversation to happen at a later time. But if we are going to come up to an agreement with the committee, which I'm prepared to, I would be more comfortable, if I may, John, I would be more comfortable if I knew at least 80% gander on who would be the person we elect, who would be the person who would be the vision. So is that something you're open to discussing at this point?
That is something we're discussing. And I have one thing to add to that. John, have you watched Spider-Man by any chance? Okay, I'm so sorry, John. But in Spider-Man, and you can see that I'm a huge superhero fan. In Spider-Man, there's a quote, it's a very famous quote. Uncle Ben looked at this young Peter Parker and says, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's the reason I hesitated when you proposed me taking up this appointment. Because it does sound nice, yeah, sure, leading this committee, progress committee. My voter base will be very happy. And I do have a lot of ideas about it. Before I can say yes to that, and I'm more than happy to say yes to that today, I need to know what these responsibilities are. I'm not going to just say yes to all because it sounds nice. I want to know these responsibilities. I want to know what your expectations are. And I want to know how you want me to meet these expectations. And only after knowing these three things, I can give you a proper response.
That's very fair. And I also want to make it very clear that this appointment, remain the formal request yet, because of some of the cards. I'll answer you. I'm steering in the right direction of where I'm thinking of the responsibilities and what the mandate is. I'll do that with a couple of quick questions. And I think those questions will help you understand where I'm coming from. Okay. So, Mother, if you're okay, you can always consult your advisor. It would be great if you take time to get me consider these. And of course, John, you can come in to us as well. That would be a good time to make applications. But one is what I would like to know from you, the policies that we reinstated. Right? What are your thoughts on those policies?
At this point, I do think I also put 3 questions to CMG, and John, could you help me out in taking down these questions as well, because I'm sure you'll look back around to them and come to them. Because it's of course his decision, and I'd love to hear the considerations of his decisions later. But I understand that CMG that the question you're asking me now is regarding the policies that changed with the party since the election, correct? I think this is a difficult question because there are many perspectives that come into play. The short answer is we are not in any way pro-industrialist or pro-PDE policies. And I know that we don't like that optic because it is polarizing for a voter base. But what we are advocating for is, on our end, the priority of urbanization, greening, and it just so happens that there seems to be some overlap with the PDE rhetoric. And what would be better for us is if we move away from, or we both find a way to move away from seeming to support industrialists with find a way to, as you mentioned, include the right stakeholders, the trade unions, the people who can fill the mandate, and still implement green policies and urbanization. That's the idea. And I'm seeing you nodding CMG. Do you understand? Is this something that you also see as an idea?
I think establish that. I want to reiterate that. That is definitely something that can, but I want to lean in a bit on the question. Right? Going forward, I think it's important. The party together is important, and also making sure that people are listening something. Now, what I'm hearing from you is you're saying that you are not necessarily, that you're not necessarily not in support of these policies. That really is right. And in addition to that, what we want to do is we want to bring down the stakeholders and make sure they act as something as well. And I can empathize with that, and I can definitely get behind that. But it's very important to me to understand and hear from you that the policies that we instead already, whether those are policies that you think are good for the people and that we can continue to stand by. Whether we are introducing other policies, I think we're on the same page that we will. But those need to remain. That is something that I want to know whether it's in your interest.
Got it. So it sounds like there are certain policies here that are really important to you. Can I understand which specific policies those are so that we can see how we can probably respond?
Yes, of course. Now, there are two main policies that we reinstated that were taken down by the old government. So the first one was regarding the green belt line, and the second was the industrialization policies that we already discussed. So those two policies is what we want to keep, as it is something that we've already established. But like my client brought up, any new policies that we will be making can be discussed and will be taken down at the moment as well.
I see. And my short answer to that is we are not opposed to these policies, and we are on the same page with you that if this is important to you, it's important to us as well. And taking a step back and thinking on the larger mechanisms at play here, I'm hearing a concern that some changes, some policies, some initiatives might compromise the voter mandate. And I've seen you not here. And I think we need to find a way to address that concern. So we had a nice, interesting option earlier. Committee, someone wanted to lead in. I'm thinking that we should have a built-in mechanism that if this committee comes up with any policies, even any action this committee wants to take, it should be subject to the CM's veto. And I mean that because sometimes committees can maybe make publicity or press release. We don't want that to happen. And we can also suggest that this committee's meetings take place behind closed doors. It's not going to be publicized. So any discussions and policies are vetted and approved by you before they're implemented. And I think that would perhaps, in my view, that would represent your interest of making sure that when we change something or we try to change something, it doesn't affect the larger public objectives.
So, Madam, what I'm hearing from you is that the committee itself will come into discussion about these policies moving forward, and then the head of the committee will have their committee to this policy if they wanted to. But if this policy was made forward, it would have, my client would still have the authority to choose whether or not this policy would stand by their own personal interest.
Exactly. And I think, Shami, I've mentioned a lot, and there are many layers to the suggestion. Do you think there's a way to manage this?
I think what we're looking at now is really that collaboration here and making sure that everyone is being met. And I think to this end, we discussed quite a lot. A lot has been said, like the long-term 50-50 split, the progress committee, the press conference I got to put out to appease people and let them know that we're working for them, as well as the meetings, the regular meetings and check-ins for the policies, and ensuring that there is a right to choose or elect whether or not to adopt them. Perhaps, John, if you could do us a favor and help us just run through what we discussed or what we have agreed on, just so that we're all on the same page here.
Taking me to right where I was about to go. Thank you for that. Because it's very important due to constraints of time that we just quickly go through what it is that we discussed. And I would commend both parties, especially because despite the fact you all represent different interests, you all have come together and you all have been very reality focused and willing to compromise and work together for the people's interests. And so one of the things that you all decided was you all are willing to form a committee, I believe, and it would be called as Progress. I think that's acceptable to both parties. Am I correct on that? And you all have discussed coming to a 50-50 split at some future date. And the headship, of course, of the committee right now, I don't believe there was necessarily any agreement on, but that can be tabled for the next day. And so all of the concerns and the interest would be taken up by that committee, which would be subject to the veto of the CM. And there were different policies, different suggestions that it could be done behind closed doors as well. I think, is that acceptable to both parties?
Thank you for this allusion. Last I have a few concerns. Can you rise with this now or let me again?
If you could quickly mention.
So Madan, I really appreciate the trust you placing me as the Chief Minister. But I have seen parties rise, seen parties fall. And I know how people can be corrupt. You quoted Spider-Man, great power comes great responsibility. With great power also comes great mismanagement. So to give the Chief Minister in this structure, you're very focused on the structure. I heard you were very focused on the structure. Give the minister, Chief Minister, legal power. I personally feel it's a bit of a dangerous precedent. While saying that, I don't mean to strike it down. I do also see where you're coming from in terms of making sure the ruling party has a way, has a mechanism to protect people's money. So I see, perhaps we can look at the committee, we can look at parliament, we can look at the structures, and we can find a mechanism there. But in terms of the Chief Minister, because I might not be Chief Minister, President decides, I might not be Chief Minister tomorrow. Someone else will come in, who knows what we will do. So I just want to put up without that, John.
That's something that you can discuss at the next session. And I think we've already achieved a lot of the agenda. We discussed synergy as being very important, and I see exactly that happening before me. And do you believe that these discussions would lead to political security in the present stage?
Yes, and I do think a lot of discussions have built around today. I do realize that there's one pressing concern that you're not managed to come. And I know there's very little time left, but can I quickly mention this so that if there's a way to resolve it, we can unite to it. The key concern is that we understand that there's going to be a march happening. A march happening by farmers in support of your mission. And it's quite polarizing that this is happening because this march is going to happen in direct opposition to what seems to be our creation of the law. After this discussion, I'm very clear that that block was not necessary at all. We are seeing eye to eye here. We are building on very mutually beneficial options. The difficulty then comes in that optically again, the people don't know about this. And if that much happens, we'll go back to square one and we have polarity all over again. I wanted to just bring this up because I think that this is bad for all of us. If we're finding a way to resolve this, we should also find a way to show the united front to the public. And that march is an opportunity as much as it is. Would you like to discuss this?
I would very much like to discuss this. But this was, in fact, I'll be very bluntly quite a headache for me. Right, the march against, even if it was due to the break with dreadlocks, that many people coming together, marching in the capital. You see it happen a lot. Presidents get kicked out, members of parliament get dragged on the street. It's not good for governance, it's not good for anything. So I hear what you're saying. And I do actually agree with Madan. It is actually a good idea that we use this to show our united front. And of course, I do need some assurances to know that we truly do have a united front. And don't think there is enough time to discuss that today, but perhaps you'll have an collaborative meeting. with your advisors, perhaps come around today to discuss that. But on that note, what would be important there is us doing our due diligence, mother, and making sure that we do in fact have that party is no longer at risk of conflict. And based on what we've heard today, I feel like we are in that direction. There is of course due diligence that has to be done. For example, Vicky was telling me that whoever joins this committee would need to see meeting logs, back records to see who has donated to them. We'd like VP to know who in terms of who has spoken to. There's quite a bit of a process, and the sooner we get on that, the better. But I do agree in principle about the March. It's a very good opportunity for me to take my people and say, look, we've got this sorted, government said, we have a good man now who's stacking for your system. Hopefully, that will be you, right? But again, I have taken an offer, and we would like to do our diligence, and you mentioned that you would like to do some homework and protection as well. So we will get that. I do know this was only 5 minutes. We have discussed quite a lot, James or John. So perhaps in this run through everything that we have discussed, and
Seeing as we have very limited time, but what I noticed from both parties is resolving this issue of the March seems to be at the head of it all. So we could perhaps in our next discussion have it at an expedited date and also have that discussed first, because I believe this is time sensitive. You've discussed a potential 50-50 split. The headship of the committee has yet to be decided. The name has been decided. There was talk of some press release, but I don't know exactly what has been on that front, so we could keep that as well as part of the agenda. And I think essentially we've achieved everything that you set out. That we just have to make sure that I heard some concerns about all of the different people being represented, and since I don't know about all of their identities, I don't know if you discuss all of that in this session. Rest assured, there will be time to discuss it all in the next session. And I congratulate both parties for coming here with an open mind. You've come with different ideas, different solutions, and I believe there has really been a lot of agreement here, and I think on this bedrock we can proceed.
Yes. And John, perhaps to move things further, one thing that would be useful for me to think about moving that. CMG, I think we've done a lot of work today in achieving the synergy, and I'm seeing the compatible priorities emerge. I'm really, really proud of that. I'm really happy that I wanted to always talk to you. I'm really happy that I've got the chance to speak to you like this. I heard some uncertainty in your final words earlier, and I just have one last question. Is there anything I can do today that will give you greater assurance and greater certainty that we see eye to eye?
there is actually one more question that I want to bring up in this meeting, but since I've heard, I appreciate my answer to this, but there were rumors that you were meeting this minister, good friend of mine, so good friend of mine, the ex-chief minister of ETV, Mr. Raja. I would appreciate if you could perhaps send over to my political advisors and my team any dealings that you have had with M. Raja, and I request you to be very transparent as we will be behind this meeting as well. And if we can get some closure on that, that has been no dealings, or if there have been dealings in the past that we're now on the right footing, I think that would be quite reassuring to me, and in fact, we'll have it from that matter would be solved, because that was the one thing that was quite important to me. So it's briefly that I asked you, there are a few next steps as well, John, that we can take in next sessions. Maybe we can give out those next steps. Maybe Shani, you can add to that.
Yes, of course. So maybe let's Shani, you and I will go and do our due diligence and make sure that this committee is properly being fulfilled. You can go and do your research on whether this is something that you want to pursue long term. But overall, I think that we have established that we're going to move with this. And maybe at the next session, once we've done our due diligence and once we know for sure that we're on the same page, we can start with it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All the best.
These guys have made it tough for us.